Hey, what's going on guys? Ace and John here, and today we're going to be doing a 3-part video series where I go ahead and explain the different types of combat style mods and how to use them. Today will be part 1 of the series where we cover the Charge with Light combat style mods. Before we jump into this, I ask that if you want to keep up to date on all Destiny 2 news, information, leaks, tutorials, and more, that you go and subscribe to my channel. Otherwise, let's jump into it. So like I said in my intro here, we're going to be covering the Charge with Light style combat mods first. I would like to make a note here that currently at the moment the Charge with Light mods are only accessible through the daily mod rotations through Banshee 44, aka the Gunsmith in the Tower. So keep that in mind if you are missing some mods. Make sure you log in every day, check out what he's selling. If he has something that you don't have, go ahead and buy it. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and break down how Charge with Light mods actually work. So it's pretty simple. Basically, you take a green Charge with Light mod. This allows you to become Charge with Light, and then you take a yellow Charge with Light mod, which allows you to spend your Charge with Light. Think of it as like putting money in your wallet and then going to the store to buy some snacks. Ignore the white ones for now. We'll talk about that later because they are a little bit different and they add some spice. Now, before we actually move on here, I would like to point out that you can have a maximum of 2 stacks of Charge with Light without any mods equipped. And I mean that as in mods that can increase your amount of Charge with Light that you can have. Without any, you can have a total of 2 stacks of Charge with Light. However, there are some mods, which we'll cover later, that can increase your total amount of Charge with Light to 5 stacks. Now, when it comes to picking the proper green Charge with Light mod, it's honestly kind of up to you, because how you become Charge with Light is kind of up to your playstyle. For example, if you constantly are switching primary weapons, then maybe the Taking Charge with Light mod is going to be the best for you because you get Charge with Light by picking up Orbs of Power. So again, like I just said, how you become Charge with Light comes down to personal preference. Now, I would like to note that not only does Armor Affinity, aka the element that's on your armor here, not only does that affect the type of mods you have access to, depending on your armor affinity can affect the type of quirk that your mod has. So I'll go ahead and break that down real quick. So if you have a solar affinity on your armor, all the solar exclusive mods, which you can tell because they'll have a little orange on the side as well as a little solar icon, this mod's quirk is that you can stack multiple copies of the same mod to get a stronger effect. Then the purple void mods quirk is that you can equip them at a reduced cost in exchange for a stat penalty of 10, and it'll actually tell you what stat is taken away underneath the description of the mod. Then lastly, with the arc affinity mods, basically their main quirk is that all the arc mods have a secondary perk that can be activated when you have another arc exclusive mod equipped. Now lastly, the final thing we're going to cover here is the white Charge with Light mods. I'm just going to briefly go over them real quick here. So the solar ones are about increasing the amount of Charge with Light stacks that you can have at a time. Then the void one is going to make it so every time you gain a stack of Charge with Light, you get an extra stack. Then lastly here with the arc ones, they're all about giving Charge with Light stacks to your allies. Also, their secondary perks on them are extremely useful because they do give a plus 20 mobility or a plus 20 to strength. Now, those 2 white Charge with Light mods that are on the arc armor, I do recommend using those in PvP for their stat bonuses. However, I do not recommend overall using Charge with Light in PvP because it's going to be pretty hard to get things, rolling. But yeah, with that out of the way, that pretty much sums up all the knowledge you need to know about Charge with Light. So from here on out, you should have the knowledge that you need to go ahead and form your own builds involving Charge with Light. However, if Charge with Light still feels kind of overwhelming for you, I'm going to show you off 2 builds that I personally like to use a lot that are pretty simple to make. So starting off for my green Charge with Light mods, I'm going to be using Taking Charge, which makes it so each time I pick up a Orb of Power, I gain a stack of Charge with Light. And then I'm also going to have the Swift Charge with Light mod, which makes it so every double kill I get with an SMG, sidearm, or pulse rifle, I also get a stack of Charge with Light. Then for my yellow Charge to Flight mod, I'm going to be using high energy fire, which makes it so while I'm charged with light, I gain a bonus to weapon damage, and each time I defeat an enemy, it consumes 1 stack of Charge of Light. And then to round off this build, so that way we can have maximum amount of uptime with that damage boost, I'm going to first have the supercharged Charge of Light mod, which makes it so I can have an additional 2 stacks of Charge of Light, totaling out to 4 total stacks of Charge of Light. And then lastly, I'm going to have the stacks on stacks Charge of Light mod, which makes it so I gain an extra stack of Charge of Light for every stack that I gain. Because of this, I never ever run out of that damage boost I get from high energy fire. Moving on to the next build I'd like to showcase. This one is going to be all about staying alive, and also it's going to be kind of similar to the first one we made. So again, for our green Charge of Light mod, we're going to have taking charge again. Then for our yellow Charge of Light mod, we're going to change to protective light, which makes it so while we're Charge of Light, we gain a significant damage resistance against combatants when our shields are destroyed. The effect consumes all stacks of Charge of Lights, and the more stacks we have consumed, the longer the damage resistant lasts. Then for our white Charge of Light mods, we're going to have the supercharge once again, so that way we can have a additional 2 stacks of Charge of Light. And then we're going to put on stacked with stacks, so that way we gain an extra stack of Charge of Light for every stack that we gain. And then finally we're going to have charged up, which allows for 1 additional stack of Charge of Light, allowing us to have a total of 5 stacks with Charge of Light. Because we will have 5 stacks of Charge of Light, we will have this damage resistance the longest that we can possibly have. So in game right now, as you can see, I have 5 stacks of Charge of Light. Let's go ahead and see this damage resistance. I'll shoot this explosive here, goes down low. Got all these Vex here. Look at that. We become super strong when we're in the red. It's gonna last, how many ever seconds it just said. I didn't see the countdown. I think it's 20 or 18. But it lasts a really long time. We get super beefy as well. That's enough time for as a warlock to pop a healing rift and get all that health back pretty damn fast. So I highly recommend this build if you're going to be doing solo flawless dungeons or day 1 raids or pretty much anything flawless. This will keep you alive no matter what. I hope this helped you better understand how Charge of Light works. You should have all the tools that you need to formulate your own builds, maybe be able to make something more complicated than I did in the video. But yeah, this was Asher and John, and tomorrow we're going to be going over Warmind cells. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and stay tuned by subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.